everyone. What is going on? It is Friday. How y'all been? What's been up? I put out a hot, controversial video today, so you know that's always good. I'm sure there's gonna be all kinds of hot takes. Okay, I got a million things going on my screen right now. Let's get that figured out. By the way, guys, just a heads up, I'm gonna be skedaddling out of here like at 8 o'clock because I am going to a class on whips and floggers that I would like to attend. So I just happen to be able to make it. It happens right at 8, so we're gonna be on the dot today, on the ball. I tried to say both at once, and I said the wrong thing. But yeah, I think we streamed for like an extra like half an hour last week, so I'm gonna try to not do that again today, because oh my goodness, so much to get done. Let me know how the audio is, by the way. Everything should be good, I think. Let me just maybe have it be a hair closer. Don't know if that really makes a difference, but yeah. Oh, and we have Bendita. Is it gonna focus? Look at my dog. She's very happy because it got to be 60 degrees today. Go us. And it was finally warm enough and not raining, so we were able to go outside a little walk, and she loved it. She smelled everything. She ate a random thing on the floor. I couldn't see what it was. She had a great time. It doesn't matter, like, she's so quick. I watch her when we're on walks, and then like suddenly she goes from smelling a bush to like eating something. I'm like, what even was that? Apparently, like microscopic crumbs of things, more or less. Yes, I do like doing the longer streams, but today I can't because, like I said, I'm going to a flogging and whips class, and I'd like to be able to attend that. So, because it's from the person that was International Mrs. Leather in 2014, so it should promises to be a really good class. Yes, so you guys, if she stays... Where are you going? Where are you going, princess? Oh, there we go. That's your favorite spot. Is that your favorite spot? It is, huh? Whenever she's on my bed, that's her favorite spot, is that very far corner. I don't know why. Any bed she's on, that's the one she wants to be on. Just like humans have a preference for the side of the bed, so does she. Oh, goodness. Oh, so I should say it's 6 o'clock here, so that's 2 hours. So it's the exact normal regular stream time, but we're going to be like on the ball about it being on time. Ooh, can you talk about ethical bratting? I'm new and learning. I would love to talk about ethical bratting, Kylie. I will definitely get to that. Let me get into the whole spiel first before I start answering questions, just because I want to make sure that, you know, we're all on the same page and we're all, you know, oh God, oh no, oh God. I forgot to mute. Okay, whew. Happens every time. I went to go look at the chat on my stream and I forgot that was going to be a thing that happened. So... hope you all liked the video from earlier today. I was really nervous about putting it out because of the nature of the subject, obviously, but I think everyone, so far anyways, understood what I was saying and understood the points I was trying to make and didn't get met, so cool. I'm going to lower this a little bit, I think. There we go. Technology. Robot desk. Okay. Let's go. Pop-out chat. There we go. Okay, so especially because I know a lot of y'all might be new to the stream, new to the channel. Just want to make sure you know this is an 18 plus only stream. So if you're not at least 18, please do not be here. See where it says that right there. Please also do read the rules down below because we do just have some sort of basic guidelines and things to abide by because YouTube does not really like BDSM subjects, and so I try to stay within at least a vague gray area of things I think are probably okay to talk about. And this is kind of just, I come on here, you guys ask questions, I answer them, we talk, we have a fun time. Sometimes we stick to the subject in the stream title, sometimes we don't. It's really anything you guys want to talk about. We could talk about Ageplay and DDLG, we could talk about bratting and high protocol and pet play and DS relationships and polyamory and asexuality and whatever else, right? Basically, if you want to know what we can talk about, read the rules down below because I just have very few restrictions. It's basically like, hey, don't give medical advice. I'm not a mental health professional, and I am not a pro dom. Basically, those are the big ones to know. And also, if you want to know things like where to buy equipment from, where to buy floggers, where to buy collars, I do have tons of resources also linked below. So just make sure you check that out because there's tons of information in there, and it just helps all of us kind of focus on particular questions rather than like going over basic information that I've talked about before elsewhere. So that's the spiel. That's what's up. And if we can all agree to that, we'll have a super fun time. Is mayonnaise an instrument? God damn, we haven't done this in so long. Today the answer is yes, mayonnaise is an instrument. I kind of picture it being an instrument in the way that, like, if you blow on the lid of like an empty glass jar, it can make like a whistling noise. That's what I'm picturing. Oh my goodness. You're so cute. So I'm going to get distracted by my dog because I can see her. I can see her right there. She's like my little like shoulder angel for today, I guess. I don't know. Oh, and I do answer questions in the order they come in. So I will try my best to get to everyone, but I can't promise that I'm going to get to literally every single question, though I do try my best. Yes, I'm glad you got the notification. I always kind of wonder what is the best time to do the notification for the stream and like set it up, because I feel like if it's too early, people can get confused. But if it's too late, then not enough people know when it is, even though it's literally like always at the same time and has been for years. But I don't know. I'm just guessing like the rest of anyone else. Hey, Evie, what is the best way to talk to you about gore? I was Gorian for a bit and have some experience in that lifestyle. I know you talked about it in a previous video. If you feel comfortable leaving a comment, I think that's generally the best way. I don't really have DMs open anywhere on any of my social media just because otherwise I get a lot of like really inappropriate, bizarre messages from people. And like, I just don't want to have to deal with that. Honestly, it's really sad. But if you want to leave a comment, I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else that's like a good way to leave like a quick message. But yeah, or we could just talk about it here. That's also a thing. Finishing my Kinky Sam Jones playlist. I don't know what that is, but I hope you're having a fun time. Ooh, watching Forge Alliance games and making commander decks, and nothing particularly productive on that Magic the Gathering grind. I see. Oh, embroidering Mother's Day gifts. That's fun. Cell phone providers are frustrating. I feel like I'm really lucky. I use Google Fi, and I feel like they've always been really good and upfront about like charges and everything like that, and they're really great to use if you travel abroad or even just go to Canada if you're in the US. But dealing with cell phone providers or cable providers, anything like that, it can be such a pain to get them to actually like charge you. Or gyms, oh my gosh. I refuse to go to a gym that is like a big chain gym, like one of those I don't know, Planet Fitness. Is it LA Fitness? Is that what it is? Like those types of things where it's a really big chain, because no matter what location it is, there's always like 30 reviews on Yelp and on Google that are like, they charged me for 6 months after I canceled my plan, and when I called them, they refused to give me a refund. And then, you know, it's just like the constant upsell. Like literally one time I had a guy from a chain gym. He saw me walking across the street with my dog, and then he literally came out the door of the building. It was like, hey, we're doing tours, like, are you interested? And I was like, no. It's like, oh my God, it's like the worst anxiety thing ever is a stranger leaving a building to confront me to try and get me to look at a product. I'm terrified. It's like, that could be a whole scene. That could be a full-on Fear Play scene for me. And I get it. I know their job's really hard because I'm sure they make commission off of whatever signups they get. So I understand it a little bit, especially because I'm sure getting people back in gyms after COVID and people kind of getting used to home workouts is difficult. But I also am terrified of that whole scenario. So this is not even long ago. It was like 3-4 months ago too. It was like January, February. It was nuts. Okay. I hope she talks about ethical bratting because I can't find anything about it. Okay, I guess that is that technically the first question? It's technically the first question. So I will answer this briefly because the real answer is that I've done like 3 videos recently talking about bratting, and I do have one that's coming out really soon that is about being a brat tamer. So if you want to know how to top brats and avoid the common pitfalls, there will be a conversation about that very soon here on the channel. But I guess what do you mean by that? Are you talking about how to be an ethical brat? How to tell if someone's an ethical brat? How to play in an ethical way as a top with a brat? Like, there's tons of different directions that we could go in terms of an answer. So let me know kind of, or is it just like general? Like, give me the 411 on bratting. Like, let me know where you're at in terms of maybe I can narrow down into a particular area, or is it more like a general thing with bratting? Is there a term for me liking being someone's pet human? Is that a thing? So butlery? Yes, that could definitely be a term for that. There is a subgenre of pet play that's for human pets, and it's called being a human pet. That's totally a thing. I know people that do that. I just actually saw a FetLife account the other day that was somebody that they're in an MS relationship, and they identify as an animal and use its pronouns when they speak, and they speak in the third person, like when they're typing stuff on FetLife. So that's totally a thing you can do, obviously in varying levels of extremeness, or just having role play fun occasionally. But other than just saying you're a human pet, that's... Well, even that, some people might assume that means, oh, you're a pet player, you like a bunny or a cat or a dog or whatever. But human pet is a thing I think I hear the most often. But also, is it also within that? There's kind of different ways of doing that, right? You could be like a maid, you could be a butler. It could be about like the bondage and humiliation aspect. Like, there's different subsets of it. And I do have an older video where I talk about human pets. So that might also be helpful for you to watch if you haven't seen that yet. Ooh, you're knitting? That's fun. I've never gotten into knitting or crochet. I definitely have friends that do it, but my understanding is that yarn like takes over your life, and I don't have room for that. I think the most ethical part would be make any bratting okay is full negotiations and consent between DS. Yes. As is with most things, negotiations and revocable informed consent are the key aspects. By the way, if you want to make sure I answer your question right away. Oh, do I not have... I don't see my little $sign button. Is monetization not turned on for this? Because there should be an option for super chats, because I definitely have that turned on. Sorry, give me a second. I am... Oh, no, it should be there. It looks like it's there. Is it not? I don't know. Anyways, if you guys want to make sure I answer your question right away, or you want to highlight something, or just like say thank you for streaming, you can go to the link below for Streamlabs if you want to go directly just through PayPal, or if you want to go through YouTube and do YouTube things, both get notifications and all that same fun stuff. You can go through YouTube and leave a super chat, or I think there's super stickers. They've like separated the categories recently for some reason, but you can do that, and that's also an option, just FYI. And then I will definitely 100% answer your question, unless it's inappropriate, but I hope y'all would know that. Yes, whips and floggers. I really have not taken a lot of classes about impact play, to be honest, because it's never something I was really interested in topping. So look, why would I take a class from that? And then a lot of the play partners that I've had over the years already had a lot of experience to the point where like they didn't need to take a class on it. So I think I've taken like 1 or 2 whip classes before, and I did recently take an impact play class. It was like an overall impact 101 class, but I didn't like it at all. And I felt like the person who taught it, I'm not going to share who it is because I don't want to like shit talk them, but I think this was like the Philadelphia, this was somewhere on the East Coast. It was like a random virtual thing. There was like a hybrid virtual and in-person class, and they did an impact play class, and I think the person who was teaching it, they were apparently a pro dom, but I could just tell from like the way they were doing certain things that they didn't really ever learn from anyone. They just sort of like winged it, and they didn't really have what I would call great technique, or I think, a really good understanding of anatomy to be able to communicate to people. So I kind of felt like that class was sort of a waste of money and I didn't really get a lot out of it. So I'm trying this one to see if it's any better, because I'm always looking for new people to recommend, and I always love learning more perspectives and more ways of doing something. Yes, the Bendita is here. Okay, and by the way, guys, please do not repeat questions multiple times if I haven't answered it yet. I will give you all a heads up before we get to the end of the stream, so that way you guys can ask your questions again if I haven't gotten to it yet. But if you do put in the same question multiple times, one, it might just annoy me and then I might not answer it. And two, I'm not going to see the later ones before I see the earlier ones, because I'm going through things in order. So it doesn't actually like help you at all. If you want to make sure, you can also just put question in capitals before you put in a question, and make sure you put in a question mark, because like sometimes if you don't put in question marks, I might just like skim through it as like conversation stuff going on and not like see it highlighted to my brain as a question, because I'm not seeing that like Q word there, you know? Now, whenever I say the word Q, I just think of Q from Star Trek, and I don't think that's what I'm intending. I don't think, does anyone else feel that way, or is it just me? I appreciate the video a lot, as a little who often has to explain to people why age play isn't bad and correct misconceptions. Well, thank you for taking the energy to explain that to people yourself, because I know it can get so exhausting, and imagine it's even more exhausting as someone who is part of the little age play spectrum of BDSM things, to have to like defend your existence basically and be like, no, I'm not actually an evil bad person. So much applause for doing that. Definitely appreciate that, and I hope that my video in some small way at least contributes to making that conversation a little bit easier, though I don't really have any faith that anyone involved is going to do anything differently. Oh, we have a super chat from Twixie Shores. If that's the class I'm thinking of, it was run by my friend. They were definitely self-taught, but had been a pro dump since they were in college. Ah, yes. Well, I totally get that. No harm in being self-taught. I'm not shitting on being self-taught. It was just like the expense, plus like I felt like I was sort of at a similar skill level to them, so it didn't really feel like I was getting any new information. So that, you know, no shame in that. No shame in being a pro dom. Just like wasn't, I think, the kind of class I was looking for. Oh yeah, sorry. I think I have, I tested this earlier. Everything should be working. I don't know, just something just like, oh, there it is. I found it. I found the culprit. Okay, excellent. Haha, I fixed it. That shouldn't be a problem anymore. Okay. Still gotta check the new video out. As someone who enjoys age play, it made me. Don't worry, it's a nice video. If you haven't, if you like, you should know this from my other videos about age play. Like, it's not meant to be like an age play is bad conversation at all. It is a conversation recognizing and talking about like the legitimate reasons why people may get squicked out by age play, the not so legitimate reasons, and kind of trying to find a way to help both sides understand each other and hopefully help, you know, put some water on the dumpster fire that is any conversation about age play. So I personally do not have any problems with age play or people that do age play. I don't have a problem with littles or DDLG or anything like that whatsoever at all. I just want to also talk about the fact that I think there are some, I don't know, legitimate critiques, I guess you could say, of some of the ways that people engage in age play, like the people that go to like Build-A-Bear workshop and then have like a temper tantrum in the middle of the store and then like expect like kind of the employees in a mall to sort of participate in the kink with them. Like that, I think there's been so many stories of, I think it's worth sort of addressing that that's a really extreme case. I don't think is in any way representative, but you know, doing kink in public is going to leave a bad impression. Forcing other people to participate in a kink with you is going to leave a bad impression, and it's worth like talking about that and not just going, well, if you can't accept my headspace, then you're rejecting me and you're kink shaming me, and that makes you a bad person. It's like, no, we need to have a little more nuance in that conversation, I think. Respecting both sides and experiences, but also, I think, trying to make the kink community a place where more people feel welcome and accepted, and most importantly, safe and included. Where to find little friends other than FetLife? There used to be, anyone who's a little here in the chat, I think should be, feel free to share. I don't really have any particulars I can recommend because I'm not a little, but I would imagine there's probably some really active Discord chats. There might be Facebook groups. There might be actual local groups in your area that could be on FetLife that you can meet through there. Those are more big city things, but like if you're in Seattle, Chicago, San Francisco, I know there are places in those areas that definitely have like little meetup groups or munches or activity groups and things like that. So I would look either on FetLife for groups that are local, or look for Discord chats, or look for Facebook groups. That would be my advice. But again, I don't have any particulars. There used to be a pretty big forum. I don't know how popular or active it is anymore, but there definitely was like a Littles and Ageplayers forum that was really popular, kind of around sort of pre-Tumblr and then during Tumblr. But again, it's not really my thing, so I don't know how active any of those are anymore. Oh, I'm so sorry, Twixie. Do you have any videos on being abandoned by a dominant? I just lost my dom and could use some tips if you have any. That's a really, really hard thing to go through. Whatever you, either if it's from a breakup or from something that's more tragic and sudden and, you know, they're literally not around anymore, getting closure in that is really difficult. There was actually a class that I took last year at a convention that is called Thrive, and it unfortunately just happened not this last weekend but the weekend before, and they did a really good class that was all about recovering from the ending of a BDSM relationship, and I'm going to try and find the author of that for you really quickly and then see if I have the notes for that class, because that might be helpful for you. But the person who taught it is, I believe, a licensed mental health professional. I don't remember what their particular license is or what their practice was, but they did a class that was, I think they even had to do it in 2 parts because it was like 3 hours. Yeah, it's by Heather M. Gardner, After the Uncollaring, Surviving the End of a Power Exchange Relationship, and that was really, really helpful for me. Do I have a way to like contact you, like, because they don't have like YouTube messaging anymore, so they would like offer to email you the class notes if I have them, but I don't really know how to do that without you just having to put your email on blast, everyone in the chat. But it's just really hard. I don't know if you're involved in a local community. I don't know if this was an online relationship or an in-person relationship, if you had mutual friends, if something, I don't know what the circumstances are exactly, but I recommend, and I think the way that we deal with grief in the modern era is really not helpful for a lot of people, because the way that we're taught to deal with it is usually to just sort of stuff it down, ignore it, keep going, act like you feel better even though you don't, and just like power through it, and like, the best revenge is letting them know that they didn't hurt you or whatever. And I don't think that that's actually really helpful for people. I think what usually ends up happening in that scenario is you're just delaying dealing with the emotion. That emotion ends up, and whatever, I'm saying emotion is shorthand, but it could be a bunch of different feelings, right? That just kind of becomes a time bomb that you're carrying around with you. And this was completely unrelated to this area of dealing with emotion stuff, but there was somebody I was talking to the other day, and they were talking about how they didn't quite realize how much something had affected them until they were like on a walk somewhere and saw a sign of something that reminded them of a thing they went through, and they just started like bawling in the middle of the street, and they were like, oh, I totally didn't deal with that feeling yet. So I'd recommend giving yourself space and time now. If you have access to, if you're able to afford to talk to a mental health professional, I really encourage you to do that, because these are some complicated feelings to work through. But I would really recommend, insofar as it feels comfortable and safe for you to do so, to try and process and work through those emotions now versus like stuffing it down and trying to get on with life. whether that be sadness, anger that they left you, confusion, embarrassment, whatever it is. Sit down and let yourself go through that grief. Let yourself go through those emotions. I really recommend, you don't have to be doing the full therapeutic practice to get benefit from this. You can look into dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. You can look for that. Look for emotional regulation and distress tolerance skills. You can get the worksheets. A lot of them are free just on Google Images. The workbook, the whole thing can get on Amazon, I think for like 20 or 30 bucks. And if you look at those can give you some really good, one, immediate tools for dealing with intense distress when you're processing the emotions, and to help with processing the emotions and learning how to act on them in the longer term, right? Making, pros and cons lists, learning how to deal with feelings when they come up again in the future. And I think those are really, really helpful. But I think it's worth acknowledging that this is a painful experience. It did affect you. It did happen. It was hurtful. Maybe it made you angry. Maybe you feel scared or whatever else. And that's okay. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to go through it alone. If you have friends, you have family members that know about the relationship, that can support you, that can talk to you, let them know what you want from the conversation ahead of time. I know a lot of people are really prone to giving unwanted advice, especially when they see someone in distress, and maybe you just want to vent. Maybe you just want to hear, yeah, dude, that totally sucks. I hate that for you. That's the worst. Let them know you want to get out of that conversation, and definitely include people in that healing process and allow people to support you. So yeah, that's really rough. And I'm so sorry. Especially, not only is getting a sudden loss in a relationship really difficult, but having a sudden loss in a relationship that's a DS relationship on top of that is so intense. So take time for yourself. Definitely give yourself space to heal and process, and don't feel guilty about having those feelings. And yeah, that's sort of my little spiel for that. But dealing with grief is really difficult. And again, the person who taught the class, I think they specialize in grief stuff, is Heather M. Gardner. And yes, that's my 2 cents on that. I'm sorry I don't have anything more prepared. I don't have a grief tolerance spiel prepared, unfortunately. But I always find it really helpful for me if I'm going through a hard time. I kind of look at it as an opportunity to reinvest that time I was spending on other people and myself. That could be reading books. That could be getting back to hobbies I was ignoring for a long time, restarting friendships I wasn't able to really fully pay attention to because of the distress in the previous relationship I was in, going to classes, making new connections with people just as friendships in my local community, things like that, going out and enjoying the sunshine, spending time with my dog, things like that I find really helpful if I'm going through a period like that, where I know, and it kind of shows to me that I can have a happy life without the other person being there. And I do have other people that care about me, and I do have other things that I enjoy doing besides just that person. But it is really, really, really difficult. And if you need help in terms of, really severe necessary support, do not be afraid to call a hotline. Do not be afraid to talk to somebody, because trust me, whatever story you have as background for this is not going to be the most intense thing that you've even probably heard that day. So no shame in that. No shame whatsoever. Okay, gonna move on from that question for now. Maybe we can get back to it later if we need to, but I want to go ahead and get into some other stuff. So let's see where we are at in the chat. How can you discover what you like and dislike without getting into a relationship first? Oh, this is a great question, Kylie. So you definitely don't need a relationship to know everything you're going to like and dislike. Obviously, playing with people, experiencing things, I'm going to kind of all lump that into having a relationship. So whether that be I want to do BDSM in a relationship only, or only want to try BDSM with a partner, or whatever else, it's something involving another person. You definitely can learn a lot about yourself without having to have anyone else involved in that process. I really recommend reading books about BDSM. That could be erotica, that could be nonfiction books, whatever your preference is. And you can learn from the author's experiences or the stories in that and kind of see what speaks to you. See what you like about it, see what you don't. You can also look into your own fantasies. You know, there are a percentage of people that don't have any kind of fantasy life, but most people, especially if they do have an interest in BDSM, have some kind of fantasies they like, have some kind of things they think about that sound nice. Is that, you know, princess captured in a castle? Is that kidnapping and abduction? Is it being a maid on landed estates in Victorian England? Is, you know, whatever it is that you fantasize about, really focus in on those fantasies and see what about them make them fantasies for you. Is it the power aspect? Is it pain, bondage, loss of control, humiliation, being sexually overcome by someone else? You can look at that information and kind of get a better understanding of what possibly some of your core things might be that you're into. You can also just, like, you know, read people's writings on FetLife, browse things on FetLife, go in FetLife groups, go in Discord chats, talk to other people, kind of see what it's like when other people in the real world are doing BDSM in scenes, in their relationships. See what about that maybe looks fun or interesting to you. If that seems kind of like, no, it's not really for me, or that seems really interesting. You know, there's lots of ways that you can look at what other people are doing, what other people have written, and kind of evaluate for yourself internally, does that seem like something I would like to do? Don't know. There's all kinds of quizzes you can take as well. I wouldn't necessarily put total stock in any of those quizzes because a lot of them have questions like, do you like the idea of getting hit by someone? Do you like the idea of being under someone else's control? Like, things that if you don't really know what your interests are, like, you're gonna have to kind of guess anyways, and so the results aren't gonna necessarily be super accurate. But yeah, definitely taking classes as well can be a really good way, especially kind of like an overview BDSM class. If you have access to go to a local dungeon, if you are near a local BDSM scene, many places will have events that offer what are called tasters. And a taster is basically short little mini scenes, sort of like doing a game at a carnival, you know, where it's not really a full-on scene. It's not romantic, it's not sexual, it's not anything. It's literally just there to give you a taste of what that thing is like. Be that caning, paddling, rope bondage, flogging, whips, sensory deprivation, wax play, 100 other things probably. I think I literally have at one point attempted to list all different BDSM activities I could think of, and it was well over 200. So there's lots and lots of options out there. So going to tasters can be one way. You can also just watch other people do scenes and just meet and talk to people in your local dungeon. But really, honestly, at the end of the day, no matter how in tune you are with your fantasies or what you read, the only way to really know if you're gonna like something for sure is to actually experience it. Because sometimes there's an aspect to the things that we have in fantasy that cannot be recreated in real life, and thus our fantasies do not match up with reality, and some things we decide we only want to keep in our fantasy lives and not do in real life because we simply don't enjoy it as much as we would when we are in total control of our own imaginations. So the real answer is you can't 100% know for sure if you're going to like or dislike something without actually trying it first, but you can get a pretty good, like, educated guess, basically. And some things you can totally try and do on your own. You can definitely do things like self-bondage, you can do pet play by yourself, you can do age play by yourself, depending on what your kinks are that you might want to go into. I think really the only ones that are, like, really hard to do totally solo would be, like, humiliation play, certain types of medical play, and you know, there's things that require a level of skill that would probably be hard to get. But for the most part, unless it's a really, like, emotional thing that involves the other person taking on a really deep level of role play, most things you can kind of recreate, at least sensation wise, on your own. Flogging is also hard to do to yourself, and Yeah, I would say solo play can definitely help you figure out a lot of different things. And some things you might like just a solo play by yourself, and some things you might not actually enjoy with a partner. Like, I only like wax play if I'm doing it on myself. I do not let other people do wax play on me. I have a very visceral reaction to wax play being done on me by other people. I just want to fight people. It riles me up for some reason. But when I do it on myself, I like it way better. So that's my very, very long answer to that short question. But it is an important question. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. Do you feel like especially DDLG has gone mainstream? I don't really think that DDLG as a concept has really gone mainstream. I think Melanie Martinez or whatever her name is kind of had a moment back in the Tumblr days. But other than kind of like people using daddy as a joke, I don't really think it's gone like super mainstream. I don't think it's gone as like off the wall, like, you know, oh, everyone's doing it now. I think there's some elements of like fashion that are sort of having a DDLG moment, but it's also sort of just like Y2K fashion. I don't know. That's sort of like, is it that it's O's inspired, or is it that it's DDLG inspired? I don't know. There are certain things I think that have sort of like maybe they were originally kind of DDLG, but they've been so removed at this point, I don't really think you can call it that. So I don't really think the whole part and parcel has really gone mainstream, but I think certain elements of it maybe have gotten more popular in terms of kind of like openly joking about calling a partner daddy, or like the prevalence of like stepdaughter, like step sibling porn on like mainstream pornography companies, which that's really just like a porn trend thing. It's not even really necessarily something that's in any way connected to BDSM. It's just like whatever works for the SEO, more or less, rather than maybe like suddenly everybody being into something. Which, by the way, incest related things like step sibling, stepdaughter, stepfather, whatever, those sort of search results and interests have like gone way down in the last couple of years. People think it's still really prominent, but it's not nearly as popular as it used to be. So yeah, I don't think it really has. I think from one other angle, it's kind of mainstream in the sense that like it's something that a lot of people are very aware of when they want to make fun of it. I think people are very aware of like cringy ABDL stuff because of like Shane Dawson doing videos about it, or I think Anthony Padilla, although the interview he did was really respectful, so I don't really think that's a problem, but like that's how people are aware of it. So it's sort of like people are more like, they might not fully understand it, but they may be like, if you said it, wouldn't be like, what? Like they probably, oh, I've probably heard of that before, but I don't think it's totally mainstream either. Anyways, sorry, that was I don't know, that was a really good answer, but I tried. Mayonnaise is definitely a wet percussion instrument. I don't even know what other things would fall under that category. Like oysters. But yes, mayonnaise is a wet percussion instrument. You are correct. All right. I don't know why I always say that, but I do. How awesome would it be if JoJo Siwa came in as a little? I mean, I don't know. I just hope JoJo's happy with whatever her life looks like. I think it's super great that she's kind of been able to, I think in a more productive way than like 20 years ago, shed her kind of Disney kid persona, even though I don't think she was an actual Disney kid. She was on like Dance Moms or something, right? It was a completely different franchise. But that's sort of like, you know, she was a popular kind of older kid, but made entertainment for other kids person, and then came out as being queer, and then, you know, shaved her head and like had a whole totally new hairstyle. But it seems to be in like a really productive, positive way, and not in a like spinning out, getting addicted to cocaine, and, you know, ending up in some kind of weird trust situation where they're not able to touch their own money and they kind of leave the public spotlight for a couple years to have a mental breakdown. Like, I feel like, although I think JoJo Siwa is a really good example of maybe how you can transition more to being more of an adult. And I never watched Dancing with the Stars, but I did watch JoJo, the clips from Dancing with the Stars, because she was the first person to have a female partner. So it was both a female lead and a female follow for the ballroom dances. And I thought that was really fun and really special. So I liked that. That was fun for me. I was like, yes, I love to see it. There's no reason. Because I definitely, I don't have like a ton of dance background, but I did do like blues fusion and things like that in college. And like in that, there's definitely way less rules about who's supposed to be lead and follow. You can like switch lead and follow during the dance if you feel like it. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice to see that. My question is, how do you feel about people who think DDLG is pedophilic? Um, I I feel bad for them because I feel like that must be a really scary world to live in, to be like constantly afraid of pedophilia, but then like not actually do any actions of substance that's actually like help people dealing with either having pedophilia as a medical like psychological condition, or help the victims of those people. They kind of just, I think, like circle jerking hating on them and like enjoy feeling superior and sort of the worst version of it, and the other version of it they're just like really paranoid. I think there's like a huge problem there. So I personally, like, if they are really adamant that that just is what it is. It cannot be changed. It is just a fact that even if you don't want to admit it, even if that's not what it seems like, it is pedophilia and whatever. They don't care what you say. I'm not really going to engage with that because I don't really feel like that's productive. I don't really feel like that is going to be something that changes their mind because they are so set in stone. I just kind of feel bad that they're so unable to look at other perspectives and be open to having their mind changed about that and hear other opinions. Oh no, I know. I sorry. I know who Sam Jones is. I have known Sam Jones for a very long time. I know when she very first made her YouTube channel, I was thinking of like some. I was like Sam Jones, like Davy Jones. Like I was thinking of Pirates of the Caribbean for some reason. So I know who that is. I don't really watch her videos that much, but yeah, I know of her for sure. I'm not even saying, to be clear, I don't actually think that JoJo C was a little. I just think she's living her best life, and I kind of talked about that. I think that no one should feel pressured to ever come out as their kink identity or have conversations about that, because obviously that's probably not going to be fun or safe. And I imagine, especially when you grow up as being a child star, there are a lot of people that do not have appropriate boundaries with you and your relationships and your interests. And so sharing information about things like that would potentially be risky for other people making inappropriate comments or contact, or just, escalating things in negative ways. Serious question now. Is there a wrong way to approach age play? I mean, sort of the obvious answer is like, well, if you approach it without consent and negotiation in mind, right? Like if you are not negotiating for what you're doing and you're just kind of like, suddenly I'm going to put on a diaper and I hope my partner is okay with that and I'm not going to explain anything. That's probably not going to turn out super well. Um, or do you, you might also more mean like intentions. Like, is there a wrong way to approach age play from the intention perspective? And I think you can. It's really hard to. It's really hard to judge other people's kinks, like in terms of like, this is appropriate, this is inappropriate, because like, I don't know, like that's not really my business necessarily, like what other people's mindset is. Like I don't even have a way to definitively know that. I think if you are approaching age play because you're an older dom, and actually I'm saying this because I know people who've done this. If you're approaching DDLG or age play or whatever other, kind of umbrella term within that, as an older dom, because really young submissives are into that, you're like, oh, all the young subs these days, all the 18, 19, 20-year-old subs, they're all into age play, so I have to be a daddy now. Like, if you are cynically approaching age play, not because it's your kink, but because you think it will allow you to date as young a submissive as possible, that I think is a bad thing to do. I actually know 2, possibly 3 male doms, one of which is an author of books about BDSM, that have since thankfully been pulled from Amazon, so I don't have to name them. I think they've probably changed everything, so I can't name them because I don't want to be sued for defamation, but just know that they used to author BDSM books that are no longer available. And there's a couple other people that I've heard of doing this as well. And I definitely know people that in the background of it, they had said that in private, they would talk about how they didn't really like littles, they didn't really get age play, they weren't really into it, but that they knew lots of young submissive women were into it, and so they would act like they were a daddy to attract that kind of audience and attract that kind of attention from those submissives to basically be able to get their own kink needs met while kind of like lying about what they were actually into. And I feel like that's a really shitty way of doing things. Like it's BDSM, okay? We don't have to do any kind of like weird mind games here. Like you have to kind of do in vanilla dating life where you kind of play like this weird sort of game of chicken where you each try to get out of the other one first what they're actually into. You don't ever really have direct conversations, and you try really hard to make things work even when you obviously don't have a base level of compatibility. In BDSM, we have so many opportunities to just say up front, hey, like, you're into that and that's cool, I'm not, let's move on and not waste our fucking times. And sometimes people don't want to take that option. Sometimes they just want to go, fuck it, like, as long as I get 18-year-olds like women to love me. You can think of probably a ruder way to say that, because they're really, generally, if they're that cynical, they're really only looking for one thing. Or maybe they could also just be looking at the status of being like a 45-year-old man that's able to land an 18-year-old. I do not implicitly have a problem with age gap relationships. I have a problem with predatory men that are explicitly and only looking for age gap relationships because they enjoy the power dynamic it gives them in the relationship. That I have a problem with. And some people do exploit age play, as I think I talked about in the video a little bit, not really because of anything inherent with age play, but just because it's an interest that younger people tend to have. Though obviously anyone of any age range can be into age play. You know, there are people in their 50s and 60s that are into this stuff. It's not just like a 20-year-old submissive thing by any means. YouTube never gave me a notification. Well, I am glad you are here now, Pixie of the Forest. You have missed a few rants, but certainly not all of them, so no worries. I was a Kajirist for a few years. It was non-sexual with my mistress, though there was some sex play with the Kajira. There was a fair amount of position training and even regular homework. Okay, so we're talking about gore stuff now from Leon is Lennon. Leon is Leylan. Sorry, I don't know. Apparently, I don't know why I said Lennon originally. There were no N's in that anywhere. Well, there was at the end, but only one. Most of my play was done online on RAC, so that's Internet Relay Chat for the young ones in the chat who may not know what that is. Though I know that my mistress did some stuff online. Also, there was. Do you mean like also different stuff online or different stuff offline? Anyways, there was plenty of service submissiveness, like preparing food and cleaning the room and whatnot. There was quite a bit of honor and what was involved in gore, at least among stereotypical males. You do have some, quote, free women, but yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Definitely, I think the male submissive perspective in gore is vastly underrepresented, because I don't believe the original books like have any like presence of male submissives or slaves at all, because that's not how the world works in gore. It's female slaves, males dominate the planets. That's the vibe. I'm curious, did you read the books or anything before getting into it, or did you like find the lifestyle and kind of get into it from there? Because I kind of wonder, like, how many people find gore and then later find out it's based on books versus like reading the books and trying to find people who are into that idea, you know? Like, what's the order of operations on that? Okay, I answered the question from Kylie already. Again, Kylie, if you repeat your question multiple times, I will eventually just mute you, because it does disrupt the chat to get the same question asked over and over again. Just a soft warning there, just to remind you, again, please do not spam the chat. Sometimes unsubscribing and resubscribing get the notifications to go again. That could possibly be an answer. Yeah, I was talking about the intentions approach, but your answer has been most informative. Thank you. Yeah, for sure. I am glad I helped answer that for you. That's really just the main thing I think of when I think of like bad intentions. I don't think, you know, there is, and I can't remember who it is. because I don't think it's Davi Vanity, but there was another really famous musician that got caught with a lot of CSM and I think went to jail for a really long time. And I remember hearing that one of the things that he would do is he would have his of age female sex partners dress up as younger than they really were and insist that they dress and act younger as a way to kind of displace onto them his like genuine actual like child related interests, let's say. And he did have problems with urges to touch children in inappropriate ways, and he acted on them a lot, and he had lots of pictures of it and lots of video. So I'm not saying it could never happen that someone could be into age play or attempt to have an age play relationship or do something with little as a way to kind of get to an acceptable way, sort of, to engage in their other less legal fantasies, let's say. I'm trying to avoid saying too many triggering words here, but yeah, it could be that, but it is by no means the majority, by no means what most people are into. I like, if something like that happened in the community, like if it turned out there was like a prominent person that promoted an age play convention, or was like even a local in the community that got caught with CP or, you know, abusing a child or something like that, that would be huge. That would everyone would talk about that. Everyone would know who that was, and I've never heard of that ever happening before. So, it doesn't seem to be a regular thing. The most common problem we have in kink communities is not this. The most common problem we have in kink communities is people playing outside their skill limits and hurting other people. They do things they don't really know how to do, but act confident enough to where other people believe they know what they're doing. And because bottoms are not oftentimes encouraged to get their own education, encouraged to know how to do certain techniques, the bottom doesn't fucking know from the outside, especially while being hit, what a good flogging looks like, what a good paddling looks like, how to use a cane. And so people end up getting hurt because of people playing outside of their skill. I keep saying skill limits, but like, you know, their skill set, maybe, let's say. And that, I think, is kind of the biggest problem by far, far and away. I've seen much more injuries as a result of that than anything else. How do you deal with shame in being an ABDL? I think you deal with shame in the same way that you deal with any other kind of shame. Sexual shame is a really, really common problem. If it's a really severe issue that is giving you daily distress and is affecting your functioning, I would really recommend talking to a professional mental health person. There are people that know about stuff like this. There are people who are what is called ASECT certified therapists. You can also go to people that are like sexologists, for example, that have to do bias training in order to not have negative biases against the things that people have an interest in as part of their intimate lives. I don't know if being an ABDL is sexual for you, but that would be the kind of professional that would be able to, in an empathetic way, in a non-judgmental way, help you deal with that shame issue. But shame is a really common problem. There are lots of like TED Talks and books from someone called Brene Brown who talks a lot about guilt and shame and how to deal with those things. So I would recommend maybe watching some of those TED Talks. Again, the name is Brene Brown. But basically, I think the way that you deal with shame, and especially because we do have a community around stuff like this, is talk to other people in your community. Meet other people like you, that have your values, that have your interests, that know what it's like to be into the things that you're into. And I think that one of the big things around shame is we feel really alone and really isolated, and we feel like, I'm so different from everyone else. No one understands me. I can't talk to anyone about this. If they knew about it, they would hate me. And when you meet people who know what it's like to like those things, who go through the same things that you've gone through, and also have had to deal with that shame, that can be such a big help. That can make such a big difference to helping you to feel normal and feel like you have a home and you have people that are part of your own group. You know, I personally don't like using the term tribe because I feel like that's kind of like weird for a bunch of like, you know, white North American people to use as a term for community. I feel like just the term community works fine. But whatever label you like to put on it, I really think that just meeting other people who are like you can do so much for not having that guilt and shame. But yeah. Opening up about it with people I trusted really helped me to overcome much of the shame I had, and I ended up finding a huge community of friends, both IRL and online, who now know I'm a non-sexual ABDL. So there you go. There is one piece of evidence there for you. Yes, exactly what Evie is saying now. Well, yes, exactly. Like, I think people really underestimate it, and this is why I think community is so important, is because, you know, some of us go through life and we really don't deal with any guilt or shame issues around being into BDSM. We're just kind of like, I am who I am, and I'm not going to be any different, and fucking deal with it. And other people feel really immensely guilty, especially if they are more on the top side, the dom side, a sadist. They feel a lot of very strong, or can feel a lot of very strong negative feelings for wanting to do things that society has told them are bad and wrong. Hitting people is bad, right? Causing other people pain makes you a bad person. Hitting a woman makes you a bad person. And it's really hard to sort through all of that messaging, because none of those conversations involve consent or pleasure or acts of intimacy or anything like that. The messaging is just hitting is bad, hitting a woman is bad, being a wife beater is bad, yada, 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 yada. And so when you hear that, it can take a really, really long time to, I guess, sort of deprogram yourself and kind of go, wait, no, okay, the spirit behind this, the spirit behind the phrase, hitting other people is bad, is set in the context of non-consensual, bad, negative pain with the intention of causing someone else harm. Hurt and harm are not the same thing. Hurt is just a sensation. It's an extreme sensation, but one that some people enjoy experiencing in the way that, for example, I love wasabi. I literally have 3 different fucking wasabi products somewhere in my kitchen right now, probably. I love wasabi. I love the way it burns my nose. I don't necessarily I couldn't say that I like the flavor of it necessarily, but there's something about the experience that keeps me going back to it. And in the same way, other people hate wasabi. They could never understand, oh my god, why do you put wasabi on every piece of sushi you eat? And I'm like, give me more wasabi, please. I love it. Give me more. And so there are some things that are painful, like spice is a painful stimulus. It is not a flavor. It is your pain receptors are what are activated when you have and consume hot food, right? But some people still really enjoy that, right? It's not bad to eat hot food, even though it causes us pain. And the same thing can be said for consensual pain we do with people we know and trust, right? Where you're negotiating for that. And I realize I'm kind of off on a tangent, but this is, I think, a really important point for people to sort of sit with, is if you are doing things in a negotiated, informed, consensual manner, where consent can be revoked at any time, you're having ongoing communication about it, that is very different from hitting someone out of anger, you know, in a completely uncontrolled way because you feel angry and you want revenge, right? That's a totally different scenario from I'm doing something that we talked about up front that both of us at the end of it are going to enjoy it having happened, right? So I more rephrase it from like hitting people is bad to causing non-consensual harm is wrong. So if you think about it from an axis of consent, that is how you can kind of change that. So it's not really an ABDL thing, but it is sort of more general dealing with BDSM shame thing, is realizing that the range of human experiences we can enjoy are many, and not all of them necessarily make sense as a direct form of pleasure, but they can still be enjoyable, and as long as they're being done in a consensual manner and not causing anyone undue harm, that's really the part that matters, truly. Sorry, I don't know. I just like, I felt that just, I needed to get that out. Sriracha and horseradish for that for me. I haven't really had sriracha, so I don't know. Is that like also horseradish? I don't know anything about that. I found it to be a sensory seeking experience. Yes, exactly. It's a sensory seeking experience. I like it when my nose feels like, you know, just on fire. Because why wouldn't you want to do that? Exactly. Some people are going to be like, you're not so. I concur in the wasabi. Wasabi too much for this masochist, lol. Well, it's funny because like I feel like wasabi is really underrated because it is such a different type of heat and pain than like a Scotch bonnet or a habanero or whatever. You know, it's a completely different sensory experience because it's not in your mouth basically at all. It's all in your nose. And some people are into that like me and some people are totally not. Ooh, I love wasabi. It's one of the few spicy spices I can have because of my allergies. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's very true. Oh, no, it's a hot sauce, but I don't know what's in the hot sauce. Is it another, I'm assuming it must be chili based if it's a sauce, because I don't think you can make wasabi into a sauce. I think it loses its potency, like pretty quickly. Anyway, sorry, I got back into the questions. We shouldn't talk about wasabi for 20 minutes. That's, if I do that, everyone's going to be like, why are you talking about wasabi for 20 minutes? Would a human pet not be like a slave? Well, Michelle, this is a very complicated answer because the answer is sometimes. If you read like a lot of really older resources about pet play and human pets, you definitely can get the sense that it's primarily about basically a really extreme form of degradation that also involves like MS and like total power exchange relationships or master-slave relationships, whatever label you want to use, of course. And it doesn't have to be. A lot of people do really like human-pet relationships because of that level of degradation and dehumanization. Whereas, like, you are a human, but you're reduced to this role that, like, most humans never kind of really occupy. And that can be really intense. And, you know, you have to eat on the floor. And you sleep on, like, a little mattress. You don't get to sleep on the bed like a real human. And, you know, you get hosed down with a garden hose. You don't get to take a real shower. Like, you can take it to that extreme. But that is an extreme. And like many things on the old internet, this was like people writing stuff in the 90s just kept getting basically restated over and over and over again as fact, when most people don't really have relationships like that, especially not on a 24/7 basis. I think most people that do have some kind of DS or power exchange in their lives, it's, you know, sort of a lower key during the week. And then if they have scenes or have bigger plans, it's more on the weekend. It's not like a continual, like, you know, being an actual slave 24/7. I think there are definitely people, obviously, that have MS relationships and have total power exchange, total authority transfer relationships where that state is very continual, but that is certainly not the norm. And you can totally be a human pet just for scenes, just for play, just on the weekend, just at very certain times, only when there's a certain trigger that happens. It's very individual, like with most things. It's not implicitly related to anything in regards of like all human pets are in MS relationships or something like that. And then must have Moxie added. Yes, it's like a slave, but for me, it lets me be more playful and relaxed. Yes. So obviously that's one part of it as well, is even when you are doing it at that really like higher level of degradation and loss of control, is it can also be more playful and relaxed. And it can also be something that allows you to let go and kind of be more carefree and spirited than I think a lot of other types of MS or other types of total power exchange can allow you to do in the traditional way that they are done. Also, like, exactly, like cats would be like cats would certainly not consider themselves to be slaves to humans. Very, very much true. Very good question, Kay. What is the difference between DDLG and having a soft dom? I always identified with DDLG, but without the Ageplay. They feel very similar, but I'm not so sure. Thanks, Evie. Yeah, so I do have a video on gentle dominance, and it's sort of like gentle dom, soft dom, gentle femdom. All of that is kind of goes together. I'm gonna like, this light feels like it's too bright. Oh, that's way better. I feel less like I'm like in studio lighting now. Like one eye is like super just like bright light right there. So I think they can be really similar. I think, and I talk about this in the video I do on like gentle dominance, is there's nothing implicit in a DDLG relationship about the relative gentleness or hardness of the daddy dom. You can have a daddy dom that is very strict, very mean, takes no excuses, and always has a belt or a rod or a piece of willow bark or whatever, you know, at their side at all times, because they are constantly doing physical discipline and they play really hard and they are very, very hard to please. There are other daddy doms, which I think are more common, are more focused on, that's more of like a disciplinarian, like kind of distant daddy. And then there's like the more warm and fuzzy big teddy bear daddies that are, and maybe I should do a video on like different types of daddies. Would that be fun? Okay, guys, serious question. I'm so serious because I had a video idea planned already for like a guide for like mommies and daddies. Maybe I could do this as sort of like a separate thing to kind of go into all the different archetypes. Would it be interesting for you all to have a video on the different approaches / types of daddies? I'm not even doing it as a gendered thing, just like different types of daddies as a concept. Let me know if that is interesting to you. But seriously, getting into more what I was speaking of before my train of thought just went, all the way over there. I think there's more of the stereotype of like the gentle kind of big teddy bear daddy that, is more about the caregiver role and, really wants to help their little do better in life and is very forgiving and isn't super strict. So, I wouldn't necessarily say the difference is necessarily, because even like, this is also one of those little subtleties that people sort of disagree on. I consider being a little to be separate from age play, because age play is more about, specifically in my mind, again, this is my own personal definition, but I see age play as being more about going back to a particular age, a particular developmental stage, right? Because a lot of age players have particular roles like to have. Babies are really popular, obviously, toddlers, like things that are more focused on something about the age, whereas littles are sort of like they're more diffuse. It's about sort of having a youthful approach to your relationship and acting in a youthful way, but you could have parts of your littleness be from completely different developmental stages. You could have traits in your little side that is like 3 and 5 and 7 and 8 years old, like all at the same time, right? But for an age player, it probably would be more relegated to like sort of one developmental time period, if that makes sense. So, so maybe more accurate is to say the DDLG without the little. Of course, you can always have a daddy. Not all daddies are in DDLG relationships. That's sort of important to note. But I would say the main difference is really the mindset. There are lots of different types of BDSM that I think have a lot of overlap and similarity in terms of the reasoning behind them, why the people enjoy them, but it's all about the approach and the intention. Like, I have a lot of people that assume that I'm a little and that I would want to have a DDLG relationship either because of my voice or like especially when I, was living with a partner for a long time and we had interactions sometimes on camera and the way that I spoke to him, people assume that because of maybe our age gap and other things that I was a little to him, but that wasn't our relationship. I think a lot of the reasons why people are littles maybe overlap into the reason why I'm a pet, and I sort of approach things from like basically like a very well behaved nice little puppy thing where it's like, ooh, I'm excited about that, ooh, look at that squirrel over there, ooh, just very excited and like, oh my god, look at that, oh my god, pony, like getting really excited. Like I definitely have that kind of voice that I can use, and like getting really excited with bark, 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 like that kind of a thing. And sorry, I just realized I just did that to YouTube and now someone random's gonna think that's super weird. But like I wanted to have kind of that like sort of joy and innocence and naivete and like the fun that puppies get to have and they get to play around. Like I wanted to have that as part of my relationships. And for similar reasons, people who are littles maybe have similar things. But if your intention and mindset are different, then they're not the same thing. So what you're looking for is more of that caregiving role, that softness, that gentleness, having a lot of patience, not necessarily doing a lot of like hard play, like not really, going until you're black and blue kind of a thing. Some DDLG relationships are really hardcore like that. But if what you're looking for is more of that soft gentleness, then I think that's going to be a more accurate label than saying what you're looking for is DDLG. And also part of this is your own behavior and your own interests. Like if you're not into a lot of the aesthetic around littles and sort of the activities that littles do, like coloring, stuffies, onesies, blankets, cribs, diapers, little kids TV shows, you know, board games, dino nuggets, princess stuff, whatever it is, you know, a million other things, you know. If you're not really into little kids stuff and really into little activities, then that's probably not going to necessarily be a good fit for you either. So also, a lot of it is also the aesthetic. A lot of it is also sort of the activities that are in the relationship. And if you're not really into doing things like, you know, having a pacifier gag and doing a coloring book, then like DDLG maybe isn't going to speak to you so much as like a more general approach to BDSM. Yes, you can definitely do Daddy Dom Little without doing Ageplay. Yes, thank you. Exactly. Glad to have that reinforced. People definitely have different opinions about that. So, you know, that is just my perspective. I don't want to say that's like with any authority, that's how everyone feels about it. I was told by my daddy's other partner that I am too energetic for her, in that I can't, in the cat that can't stop running around bouncing off the walls cough, aka Energizer Bunny way. Oh, like you're too energized, like for the dom, or for her as like a metamor? I mean, that's kind of like her problem, but like other people have different energy levels, so I totally respect that. Like if I was around someone that was super, super high energy all the time, I don't think I could handle it either. I'm a pretty like, in everyday life, I'm kind of like a quiet, serious person, and so I definitely, if somebody was constantly ping, 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 I'd be like, sit down, read a book. Do a hobby, okay? Relax. Like, here's the iPad. There you go. Watch something on YouTube, kids. My little doesn't necessarily like Ageplay itself. She just needs the caretaking for comfort and such. Yes, exactly. I'm too energetic for the other partner. My daddy loves my energy. Well, then fuck it. Like, if your daddy likes it, who cares about our opinions, to be honest? Like, unless you're supposed to be doing a scene together or sharing space together, then, like, okay, she doesn't have to like you. Hot take. Not all partners are going to like each other's partners. That's part of life. Not everyone likes each other. Who would have guessed? Whew. Okay, that was a long answer. Let's get on to another question here. How much stake do you put into BDSM tests and stuff of that nature? Very little. I think that they are, in the way that I usually, oh my god, my dog's being so cute, sorry. Don't focus on my chair, focus on my dog. There you go. Look at that. Ta-da. Anyways, dog update. With BDSM tests where it's like, here's what your label is. You're a disciplinarian. You're a sadist. You're whatever. I think it's useful for getting terminology you might not be familiar with and looking at kind of your top results to serve as an inspiration for your research. To go, oh, well, it seems I scored really high on DDLG and Petplay and bondage. I should look into more about what those things are. And that's really what they're for, but I don't think you should treat them as like well, this test said that I'm only 20%, whatever, so I could never really explore that. And it's like, no, I really, like, if it's used in a way that limits yourself, I don't like that. But if it's used as a tool, understanding that it's imperfect, then I think that's fine. What are you doing, silly girl? What are you doing? Look at this funny monkey. What are you doing, funny monkey? I cannot get the camera to focus on her. What? Are you trying to get attention? I saw that yawn. I did. We went outside on a walk for like 20 minutes in the sunshine. Was that not enough for you? Anyways, she's just being silly. She's being a silly willy. Talking about Petplay, yesterday I tried it for the first time, completely out of my comfort zone for sure, but I enjoyed it a lot. I thought I may never want to do something like that, but the person with whom I had done it wanted it to be like a one-time thing, so I may need to go looking around for someone else to do Petplay with. I mean, I'm glad you got to have the experience, but like, oh, that sucks. They were like, oh, I only wanted to try it once, but not really anything more than that. Well, at least they humored you so you know if you liked it or not. BDSM tests are silly. I don't know. I didn't know if it knew what to make of me. I was a little of everything. I think that ends up being a lot of people as they get more into BDSM, where you're like, you know what, I like that all right. That seems fine. I could try that once. How do you deal with being a femme presenting person talking about kink sex relationships online? I get so overwhelmed thinking of the potential creep sexist criticisms. How do you get through that? Slow ramp up of exposure over time. I was very lucky in that I had kind of one video go viral, but I didn't really get a lot of like long-term followers from that necessarily. And so I have always been very consistent in terms of my YouTube growth. I haven't had a lot of like big spikes into nothing and then big spikes into nothing where I went from like, 100 viewers to 10,000 viewers overnight, where I was dealing with 20 times as many comments as I was before. And I think that helped because when I did start getting more comments that were obviously hurtful, misunderstood what I said, was just trying to get under my skin, or were making really rude comments about like, hey baby, you look, and I'm sure because I'm wearing this today, there's gonna be at least one person who leaves a comment under this video that's like, it's so nice to see you wearing a collar again. And it's gonna be from like some guy from Mississippi called like Joe McFarland, that's like, just a completely like random guy who doesn't know me, and he's gonna like, it's gonna have like a winky emoji in it. It's gonna be like, I don't know what you're implying by this. Like, what accessories I'm wearing are not any of your fucking business. Like, for the record, this is not a symbol of a relationship in any way. Just to dispel any potential rumors that are gonna come up as a result of me having said that. This is not in any way affiliated with a relationship. I just enjoy wearing this because it's an accessory and it helps people be less confused about if I am a femdom or not. But really, it's just like, having good filters for things in your comment section, and then realizing that people that are going to be sexist and leave weird comments don't really care about your feelings, and so you don't have to care about their feelings, so don't feel bad about deleting comments or blocking people that, send you creepy messages or whatever. I do, on purpose, avoid talking about certain things because I don't want to attract a certain type of crowd that in my experience tends to leave creepier comments on average and do inappropriate things. This is why I don't talk about a lot of fetishes on my channel, even though I would get a lot of views if I did that. This is why I don't talk about, foot fetishes, foot worship, chastity, pegging, CBT, ball busting. This is why I don't cover those subjects, besides Wasta Safe Word has like lots of videos on stuff, either those subjects or things close to them, or at least some of them anyways, maybe not all of them. And so I avoid those things because I have found from my own past experience, for example, with the fucking tickling video, for some reason, even if you say up front, I'm not into this thing, I'm just doing it because a lot of people are into it, or because I just wanted to know more about it myself. It doesn't matter. Like, people are like, oh my god, a woman talked about my fetish on the internet. I'm gonna message her all of my fantasy details. Like, it doesn't matter. People still do it. And to this day, I went through my my Instagram follow requests the other day, and there were so many, like more so than any other thing. It used to be for a while, it was like the foot fetishist like spam accounts that are just like, she's gonna try and make a little bed. It's gonna be really cute. Observe. What are you doing? Oh no, she's just licking her paw. Are you grooming? You did a little dance and then you groomed? Is that it? Anyways, I had a bunch of like just so many accounts, like a disproportional number of accounts that were all they were like explicitly tickle fetish accounts. And I was like, I made a video on tickle torture one time, and to this day I get like dozens of people that are like, oh my god, let me tell you about my tickle fantasy, let me like, can I want blah, blah, blah. It's like it's not my kink. No, it's not my kink. And so I just like learned from that to avoid talking about and I kind of knew this beforehand as well. Sort of my thing is like, if you don't want people to leave you creepy invasive comments, don't talk about subjects that invite creepy invasive comments or attract that particular demographic of people. Bonding is not a new show. I have watched it. I reviewed it like probably almost a year ago, and I don't like it. So I am sorry. Our opinions are not in alignment. I am, however, if you are on Patreon, $1 a month, we are going to be watching 365 Days this day. It is the sequel to Are You Lost, Baby Girl? That we've been waiting for a year. It's gonna be bad BDSM. It's gonna be bad dialogue. It's gonna be such a cringe fest. It's gonna be awesome. So if you want to make sure to check out my first impressions and watch along with me as we watch 365 Days this day, we're gonna be doing that over on Patreon sometime probably at the beginning of May. Don't have a date for that yet, but that is on the horizon. I mean, I want to pet my dog, but she's far away. So, I feel you. I just didn't think that bonding was funny, like, as a comedy. Like, I think it just, like, on its premise of trying to be a comedy, it was just, like, maybe I'm just, like, not into cringe comedy enough. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. But if it worked for other people, that's fine. And I'm kind of sad it didn't get renewed for a third season because I think they were going in a really interesting direction. And I definitely think the second season was better than the first season. But whatever, improvement was going to be made from that point forward is unfortunately not an option anymore. Okay, it's 7:20. Just as a reminder, we are done in 40 minutes. So ask your question now or forever hold your peace, okay? I do not have a TikTok. I will not be getting a TikTok. I understand that kink is or sex in general is very, very centered on TikTok. I do not want to invest in yet another social media platform that will simply randomly at some point delete my account. So I would love to do a reaction to kinky TikToks or something at some point, but I am not going to make a TikTok for myself. I can't. I have attachment issues with social media now. I've had too many places randomly get rid of all of their content or just delete my account or whatever. I just can't do that anymore. It's just too much investment, too little reward, and random, completely nonsensical enforcement of policy. How do you feel about littles being little with everyone without negotiation? Having done this previously and have it backfire repeatedly, I feel like I've learned a valuable lesson. Well, I talked about that in the video that I did today, that came out today anyways. I filmed it like last month. But I feel like that is generally a bad idea. I think you can do things in a very, very subtle way where you can kind of signal your littleness as like a BDSM flirting thing, maybe? Like, whether it be the way you dress or an inflection in your voice or something. I think you can do it a teeny little bit and kind of get away with it to the point where it's not like a consent issue. It's just a like, oh, this is like your personality. This is your style, right? This is your aesthetic, and not like a trying to do play with somebody. But I feel like if you are trying to like really be a little with people and, act like an actual child around adults in a BDSM space, that is definitely going to go badly for a lot of people, because there are definitely a lot of people that are super not into age play, that don't want to be around age play, that don't want to be reminded of their kids at home when they're at a dungeon. And yeah, it can definitely really backfire. And if you want to be able to just be fully little around everyone, that is why DDLG, CGL, little focused parties are really, really great. So I wonder how many of the I saw a little have a tantrum at Build-A-Bear stories, just stuff people made up for shock value. I mean, isn't all of Storytime YouTube just made up for shock value? I don't really know how much we can like concisely say is like, oh, this definitely is the one that is, this is the one that's true, and this one was totally made up. Because didn't like Tana Mojo like make up a bunch of stories, or Gabby Hanna? I get those mixed up. I think Gabby Hanna was the joke stealer and Tana Mojo was the story stealer / big giant liar who lies. Or maybe they were each both. I don't know. I think they were both Storytime YouTubers though. Anyways, yeah, I think a lot of it could be made up, but I think there is definitely a kernel of truth. because I have there's a lot of like the Truly documentaries and stuff where people like just without any shame whatsoever are like doing kink in grocery stores and dungeons and public dog parks, at the park across the street with the kids at it, where you're like, do you just not have any self-awareness? Did like the documentary crew make you do this? Is this something you do all the time? Like I don't know. I don't know what the story is there. So I think probably a lot of it is made up, but certainly not all of it. Someone has to be telling the truth in there somewhere, I feel like. Ooh, Amaya, I am so excited for you. I am getting ready to go to my first kink convention. I am a little and not sure what to expect, where, or really anything. What should I expect as a little at a general kink convention? Okay, so this is not an ABDL or a little convention. It is a general kink convention. I don't know which one it is. If you feel like you want to share which one it is, I can give you more specific advice based on what I know about that convention. But generally, if it's the kind of convention where you're at a hotel and it's classes in the daytime and discussion groups and meetups and social stuff, and then evening is playtime at a dungeon, number one thing you can always do is read the dress code. Most dungeons, especially if they're like a general education during the daytime, party in the evening convention, they're all pretty similar. You know, you can definitely dress up. You can dress up with your tutus and your onesies and all of your colorful clothing and, you know, your unicorn stuff or whatever. I don't know what kind of little you are, what your interests are. I'm just speaking really generally. You can definitely wear stuff that has like a little flair to it that is like comfortable day wear that, you know, keeps all your bits covered during the daytime. Generally during the daytime, usually the rule is you have to have all your genitals covered up. Going into the convention area, you usually go behind a curtained off section where after that you can have things uncovered. But generally during the day, most people, except for maybe kind of, you know, hashtag free the nipple folks, are keeping everything covered up, and it's really just comfortable clothing, especially the longer the convention goes on. Day one might be like kind of more of, you know, daytime wear, but kind of kinky and sort of maybe not super comfortable to wear for hours. Then you have like a really big outfit, fancy thing you wear for the dungeon. And then the next day when you're hungover from play on Saturday or on Sunday, depending on when the convention starts, then you get into just progressively more comfortable and easy to wear clothing until by the end of it, everyone is wearing kigurumis and sweatpants. And there is no shame in that whatsoever. So, you know, wear something comfortable, wear something that makes you feel like you. This is the space where everyone gets to be exactly what they want to be, right? If you have clothing, if you have stuff you never get to wear because you're like, oh, what if I'm in public and someone from my work recognizes me or a family friend or whatever, this is your time and your space to wear what makes you feel like yourself. If that is a unicorn kigurumi, go for that. If that is a leather dress and Doc Martens, go for that. If that is a full body latex outfit and a hood, maybe be cautious of that because latex allergies are really common, and consult the rules of the convention because a lot of conventions do not allow full body latex wear because of aforementioned issues with, you know, contact dermatitis and sudden anaphylactic shock kind of ruining the moment. But, you know, if you want to wear whatever you want to wear, just fucking go for it. You know, I have seen literally everything across the board, and as long as people are being genuine about themselves and really using this as an opportunity for expression, I think that's when the really like fun, awesome stuff is. So, outside of just keeping your bits covered, there's usually not really much of a dress code, but what I would probably expect is, you know, daytime classes, socializing kind of in the between hours, maybe something with cigars or boot blacking, depending on who's organizing the convention, maybe sort of an organized dinner space, things like that, and then a big convention party, that's in the dungeon in the evenings, usually in some of the ballrooms. It's going to be a very high energy, it's going to be draining, but it's probably going to be a really, really, really fun time. If you go in with an open mind, don't overdo it, especially later on you go into the convention. If you're taking classes all day and then playing all night in the dungeon, you will get burned out. Make sure you take at least, I don't know if it's like a 2-day or 3-day or whatever thing, have one of those days where you sleep in, where you plan on sleeping in and recovering, where you don't take the 9 a.m. blood play class, okay? It's okay. There will be opportunities to do it in the future or get notes from someone else, you know? Take that time to have time for self-care during the convention. don't feel afraid to take an afternoon break and just go up to your room to be by yourself and recover, because if you're introverted, if you have not really been around a lot of people because of COVID, and you're kind of like out of practice, it can be really, really overwhelming to be around that many people. So don't be afraid. No one's going to judge you. I've never heard anyone ever saying anything bad about someone sleeping in or taking a break or needing to stop the socializing or whatever else, right? It's all up to you and what you feel comfortable with doing. Yeah, definitely check out Discord chats. I just organically made friends by following other littles online. Yeah, totally. Like, definitely if you are, I don't really know if littles are on TikTok or Instagram or wherever they are anymore, but definitely like just on social media, connecting with people over social media can be really good as well. Overall questions. What is most common wear at a dungeon? Totally depends on the dungeon. Depends on the night you're going. Depends on a lot of different factors. I would say kind of the standard is generally going to be black and like fetish wear stuff. So like fishnets, collars, cuffs, mesh, latex, PVC. For men, really easy. Kilts or black pants, black t-shirt, leather vest. It's like 90% of men's outfits at things. Maybe a suit if you want to go fancier, or maybe a dress shirt and just a tie, maybe not like a full suit. But generally that's what most people are going to be wearing. Or if you're more a leather man, you're more into the fetish side of things, maybe you have something from like, Mistress Leather, maybe for example, and you have maybe like leather pants and a belt and, and a nice t-shirt or something like that. But usually people wear, lingerie is really popular, things with layers in it. So you have, the ability to kind of stay dressed going into the event, but then you can take layers off when you're going to start playing versus like walking around. So totally depends. I can't necessarily give a concise, like comprehensive answer for everywhere because like a femdom party, with a, closed female nude male theme is going to be totally different from like a general BDSM night or an ABDL party or, a gay Leatherman's bar or whatever, all totally depends. Would you ever do a makeup tutorial? The looks you do are so cool. Sometimes, especially if I'm getting ready for a party on the weekends, which doesn't happen very often, but does happen occasionally, I do live stream doing makeup and I talk through like what products I'm using and things like that. Though I do tend to do makeup a little differently for real life than I do for videos just because I'm not, being filmed and wearing false eyelashes when you're going to be wearing a blindfold. It's difficult. I don't recommend it. It ruins the eyelashes, honestly. But yeah. Yes, kilts are a great option for kinky guys. I love kilts because you can layer them with belts. You can wear them with Doc Martens. You can make them kind of fetishy, but they're really, really comfortable to wear. Utilikilt and Stumptown kilts are the two that I know of, and you can definitely find them secondhand as well. If they can be a little bit on the pricier side, but you can also find them secondhand, and the sizing is a little bit more flexible because of how they're designed. I actually want a kilt so bad, and I plan to get one sometimes when I'm less broke. If you are on any sort of secondhand websites, like Depop, Mercari, what are the apps that people use these days for ThreadUp, maybe Poshmark, maybe Facebook Marketplace. You can definitely look for kilts secondhand as well, and it would not surprise me at all. Or Etsy even. Etsy has vintage options for stuff as well. I would not be surprised at all to find something from Stumptown Kilts or Utilikilts on one of those websites. In fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and look right now because I want to know for myself. Because I'll just show you guys. This is forever and always the best thing I have ever found in my whole life. And I don't even care. I had to spend like almost $150 to get it altered because of the material, but I literally don't care. This is, and I showed this on a live stream before, this is and it needs to be conditioned. I was going to take it to a boot black, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it now. Anyways, this is a vintage Northbound leather. They are one of the only manufacturers. I think they are the only one in North America. I think there are some German companies that still make women's clothing in leather, but it's very, very, very rare. This is it's from Canada. It's Northbound Leather, a vintage Northbound leather skater dress that I got used on Etsy for not, it wasn't super expensive. I think it was like $200 or something like that. It cost me a lot of money, but like new Northbound leather clothing is like $500 USD. So it gets really, really pricey. So I was so happy to find this. I was not expecting to find it at all, but it just, I basically just looked for it on Etsy, just kind of thinking, oh, is there anything out there? And it totally was. They don't even make this style anymore. This hasn't been made, I think, in like 20 years. So the fact that this was just like hanging out on Etsy blew my mind, and I'm going to love this until the day that I die, basically. And I can see where it's been like re-sewn, because they did have to make some adjustments to it, obviously, because the one downside of this is I think this was like a off the rack size 6, which is like, or maybe size 4. So it was definitely like too big for me, but basically it was proportional to me, so they really only had to take it basically the same amount all the way around. So it was like, relatively speaking, an easier, like, you didn't have to completely change the proportions anyway. So this was super, super awesome to find. I'm so glad that I have this. And so that just goes to show, if you are looking for fetish wear, if you're looking for leather, if you're looking for kilts, do not pass up looking for secondhand, because almost all of my clothes are secondhand. And I love it. I totally recommend it. It's a great way to save money, and it's a great way, to keep this stuff in the community, because a lot of stuff like this could have just gone to somebody that's gonna make a fucking TikTok, okay, and like wanted to be trendy. And now this like Northbound Leather is a fetish company. They make leather for the leather community, and now because I was able to buy it secondhand, it's kind of staying in circulation within our BDSM culture, and I appreciate that. Anyways, leather rant over, and also like buying secondhand leather is a really great way to make sure that the death of animals does not go to waste. Anyways, vegan rant over. Bye. You should make a trip to see the guys at Northbound. They are awesome people. You know what? I would love to at some point, but I have no idea when the fuck I'm ever going to be in Canada. Aren't they in like Ottawa or something? Where are they? They're in like some random fucking place. I would love to go to like some kink stuff in Canada, but I just have no idea when I would do that. Oh, they're in Toronto. If they were in Vancouver, I could just go, because Vancouver is just like north. But Toronto's like all the way over there. I don't know. Do I say Vancouver? Is that weird? Am I saying it? Vancouver? That's how much emphasis I put on the coup on there. But yeah, I would love to go to Toronto and do some kinky stuff over there, because I think that's where what's her face? Morgan Thorne's around that area, so I would love to go at some point, but I do not have any immediate plans for that, unfortunately. I have ordered sushi because of the wasabi tangent. I blame you. Well, listen, I hope it's really good sushi, because when good sushi is good, so good. I'd honestly love to buy secondhand fetish and kink gear, but I'm really short, so it can make things fit me a bit weird. Dresses a lot of the time end up being really long on me. Yeah, dresses are hard. I mean, separates sound like they might be easier, like skirts and tops. But yeah, even just finding them can be difficult. You just gotta really like get lucky looking, honestly. But it's possible. It's a thing. I would only go during the summertime, to be clear. I do not like the cold either. I would not voluntarily go to somewhere that is, below 0 on purpose. You would have to bribe me, or it would have to be just like, we planned it a year in advance, and somehow they're having the worst extended winter of the year, even though it's March. It'd have to be one of those sort of circumstances. Okay, I promise I'm getting back to answering questions. Oh no! Yes, I did get it tailored. I don't get a lot of stuff tailored because I'm pretty lucky with things fitting off the rack most of the time, or I just don't mind if it doesn't fit perfectly. But like, if I'm gonna buy a vintage like leather dress and it's gonna be for me and I'm gonna keep it as long as possible, it's gonna fit me, you know? Okay, so I do apologize. We had too many chats, we had too many messages, and I think I did miss some questions. So the next one I'm going to be reading is from Dominic. So I apologize if you asked a question before him and I missed it. Now would be a great time to re-ask your question. But Dominic says, "Hey Evie, I know you like looking into the history of different kinks. So do you have any sources or info you can share on the history of Ageplay? Try as I might, I can't find anything online." I very much have had the same problem. The one person I think would have that information would be Lee Harrington, who wrote the Toy Bag Guide to Ageplay. But as far as I know, it's kind of been one of those things that's been sort of underground and around for a while in the kink community, but has not necessarily always had a label or a community associated with it. Oh, here we go. All non-Newtonian fluids are wet percussion instruments? Okay, noted for that. Noted for that. What kind of advice would you maybe have for someone that has had trouble with dedicating themselves to the study of BDSM or has wanted to be better in a BDSM relationship but is having trouble? Set reasonable goals. That is really the answer. I totally know that. I know it can be really hard, especially if you are not somebody who generally enjoys good old-fashioned book learning. I totally get that it can be really difficult to just focus on doing that. Find a medium that works for you as well. Some people love reading books. Some people love audiobooks. Some people love podcasts. Some people like doing in-person classes or online classes or discussion groups or being in a Discord chat and asking questions to people directly. So find the medium that you enjoy doing the most. It's not like in school where you have to read the textbook, and if you don't read the textbook, you're not going to get the information. Find the thing that works with the way that your brain works the most and your lifestyle and all of that stuff, and focus on doing that. So figure out what that is, and then from there, again, just setting reasonable goals. That could be, one really great way to do this is like when I'm cleaning the house, assuming you live by yourself, but when I'm cleaning the house, or maybe you can have headphones in and do this, when I'm cleaning, I will put on a BDSM podcast. That's what I'm going to listen to. Or that's what I listen to when I work out, right? Or on my commute to and from work, that's when I'll listen to an audiobook or listen to a podcast. Or once a month, I will go to a BDSM class. Because there's tons of online classes from Pragmatically Kinking and Wicked Grounds and Philly 101 and Tess Events and like so many places. King ED is another one. So many ways to do BDSM classes online. And yeah, I don't think you necessarily, if it doesn't work for your brain to do something once every single day, then at least do something once every week. Maybe for you, it's like, I need to do it for 5 minutes every day or I'll forget about it. Great. Okay. Then listen to shorter YouTube videos, right? Or have like a podcast you listen to bits and pieces of over a couple of days. Or maybe you're more, my week is so busy, I kind of lose track of time and I only really have time on the weekends. Make sure you're setting aside maybe like an hour every weekend to do something. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's not about getting it right every single time. You shouldn't let temporary failure dictate the rest of everything else that you do. So if you happen to mess up like one time and not meet your goals and not do enough that week, that's okay. You can make it up later if you want, but you don't have to. It's more important to stay on the path than it is to give up because you messed up one time. So don't beat yourself up too much, but just try to make time where you have time. If you're already doing things, where you are okay with multitasking and you can still kind of listen to what's going on. I have listened to probably hundreds of hours of podcasts about BDSM at this point, just because of commuting and driving places and listening to things when I've been cleaning and doing chores around the house. So that's a really, really great way of incorporating stuff. Talking about age gap relationships, what do you think is a reasonable age gap for BDSM play versus relationships? Seems like there's a lot of options, or opinions, rather. I mean, especially for like scenes play versus relationships. Let me think about this for a second. I don't really think there's one really hard and fast rule, Because I could say 10 years if I'm thinking about the difference between like 20 and 30, right? But 50 versus 60 is not that big of a difference. Or 55 versus 65 is not that big of a difference, right? So I could say 20 years. But then it's like, well, do we really want to encourage, a 20-year-old to have a relationship with a 40-year-old? I don't know. Like, you can pick any kind of like number of years, and you can find, earlier on the timeline, it's more problematic than later on in your years. So I really think it's more about, especially for a relationship, having alignment over what you want from the relationship and being in a similar place in life. Because I think a lot of the conflict around age gap relationships comes from wanting different things from the relationship and being able to exploit differences in power and position and money. So, if you're an 18-year-old that has 50 grand in student loan debt that is drowning them every single month, and you are couch surfing and you don't have a, super steady job, and you've never done BDSM before, and you've never dated anyone before, you're going to be in a really different position from even like a 21, 22-year-old that, managed to get enough student loans, doesn't have a lot of debt, has a stable job, has been working on a career for 3-4 years by that point, lives on their own, has more kind of relationship experience as a background. So even a couple of years, and depending on what your own personal background is, what is reasonable or more likely to be secure and safe can totally vary. I think it's more about the particular individuals than it is like this number of years is what makes it problematic. I think that's kind of what bothers me about like people on Twitter who talk about problematic age gap relationships is it's not really about the numbers themselves. I think the numbers kind of freak people out a little bit. But as someone that's like exclusively dated people who are more than 10 years older than me for like basically the whole time I've been an adult, that really came as a result, and I say that basically I'm really like since I was like 21, 22. That came as a result of knowing what I wanted in life, having a stable income and background, having my own college degree, so having a backup plan, having my own car and transportation, having my own health care, like not being dependent upon the other person facilitated me being in a position to successfully, in a more successful way at least, navigate having an age gap relationship compared to someone that may be in a totally different place in life. And also because I chose relationships where we were otherwise synchronized. Oh, thank you so much, Bald Eagle. Thank you. The super chats do not automatically get added to the total here, but I will add that after the stream. Thank you. So I was just in a much, I think, better position to be able to navigate having age gap relationships because of the position I was in versus where some other people might be. And also because like I chose partners where we were in similar places in life, right? Like in terms of wanting kids and, marriage or not, things like that. Like, if you're an 18-year-old or 20-year-old that wants kids and to get married and have a monogamous relationship, you're not necessarily going to be a good fit for somebody who's 45, been divorced, has 2 kids already that are like, getting to middle school or high school age and isn't looking for getting married again or looking to start a second family. So I think that's really important. Besides all of the obvious issues with like power and experience differentials and monetary issues and career stability and like, income, healthcare, housing situation stability that can also totally be a factor. But I think if you're just playing, like if you're just doing a scene, I think the thing that matters most is having a good vetting process and the relative kink experience levels. I think there's definitely a place in the community for like experienced people giving tasters and doing that as a way to show people, hey, like here's what you could expect from like a positive BDSM experience. But unfortunately, a lot of people kind of use that position of authority and experience, especially as doms and tops, to exploit other people and convince them, I'm going to be your dom and I'm going to teach you all the right ways to do things. And use that as a way to lure in people that are more unsuspecting and wouldn't necessarily know better. So there is sort of a predatory tendency in that. But I think with play, it really matters a lot less because you're not intertwining potentially your finances, your life goals, your healthcare, whatever else. You're staying pretty independent. And in that case, it's more about like, can you trust this person to act in the way that you have negotiated they will act? Will they try to take advantage? Will they try to push boundaries? Will they try to convince you that what they're doing is really okay because of their age and experience compared to yours? That is really more of the risk. And the only way, I think, to really know an answer to that or not is, being in touch with your local community, keeping sort of a pulse on things, being aware and asking other people of like, hey, is this person safe? Do you know them? Have you seen them play before? And having a good patient vetting process and not leaping into things will keep you very, very safe, more so than relying strictly on age as a metric for someone's safeness or not. I feel like the only time age gap relationships are problematic are if it's like an adult and a minor, or minors with a big age gap, a power imbalance, or when you're in a different place in your life. Yeah, it's very much like the power imbalance situation. I think this really boils down to, again, like you can have people that are the same age and be in a totally different place. Like you could be 25 years old, be dealing with like severe unmedicated mental health issues, not have healthcare, be living out of your car, and like, not having a stable job, don't have any backup plan, don't have any savings, and never got a college education. And you can also be a 25-year-old that like has had a career for 6 years, has a college degree, has stable housing, has healthcare, has 6 years of experience doing BDSM, and like getting into a relationship with each one of those people, despite being the same numerical age, is going to play out very differently because of where they are at in life and what their circumstances are. And it's important to recognize that. Thank you, Jonathan. I don't have a question in this stream, but thank you for everything you've done for all of us. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I am so glad to hang out. By the way, we do only have 10 minutes left, so this is everybody's final warning. Get in your questions now. If you want to make sure I answer your question, that is what super chats are for. So please, if you see the little dollar sign below, click on that. That will let you do a super chat, and then I will answer your question because I am definitely not going to get to everything. Oh my gosh, there's like 134 of you watching. Welcome. Thank you. I didn't realize there were that many people. I just looked. My name is Kylie too. I feel like I was in trouble. Oh, sorry. Levi's favorite teacup. That was not my intention. I was just outlining the rules because sometimes people think that asking the same question more than once in like a short period will help them get their question answered, but that's not how I do things. So I don't want to, encourage spam, more or less. Do you recommend any informative videos for new DOMs? My friend wants to give it a try, and I'm recommending your channel, creating a playlist for him to educate himself before we dive into BDSM, or any good books to read on. I really love the, let me make sure I get the title for this right. Give me 1 second. Definitely Morgan Thorne. I don't know Morgan Thorne is like a female dominant, so that kind of gives a little bit of a different perspective, but I think that she gives a lot of really good information for dominance. I would totally check that out. Unfortunately, there's not really a lot of great doms that consistently make YouTube videos just because people don't do that, and it's just a thing that for some reason doms are less likely to do, and I'm not really sure why. But the books that I really recommend for doms, there's a couple of really good ones that have come out kind of recently. I really recommend The Dominance Playbook by Anton Fullman. He has a previous book that he has written that is more of a 101 intro. The Dominance Playbook is a little bit more advanced, but it could be a good idea to read both of them together because I think they kind of build on each other in terms of ideas. I would also read just the general classic, The New Topping Book by Dasa Easton and Janet W. Hardy. I think those ones are a pretty good overview. They're not super overwhelming. They're not really into, hardcore power exchange, really hardcore play. I think they're a really good representation of like a general overview of topping and dominance. But yeah, don't really have any other particular recommendations besides that I can think of, but that is where I would start. And I do have, again, FAQ is down below. I do, in that FAQ, have a list of books and references and my favorite resources. So if anyone is having trouble keeping track of this stuff, I literally have hundreds of recommendations depending on what it is you're looking for, because I am, as is part of my job, a walking encyclopedia of this information. I think I answered the question about what to wear to a dungeon. Yeah, I was more, I know she has a particular, for Brene Brown, I was talking about the particular TED Talk she gives on, like, shame and guilt, which obviously it is written primarily for neurotypical people, but the person didn't indicate that they weren't neurotypical, so I don't know, like, if there's particular differences in how non-neurotypical people deal with shame and guilt versus neurotypical people, then, like, you know, feel free to share that. But I don't have any particular resources that say anything other than that are, you know, are more accessible for some reason from a different perspective. Is your Friday stream the same time each Friday? Yes, it is. It always is at 6 o'clock, unless I say otherwise on, like, a community tab comment or on Twitter or something. It is always 6 o'clock on Fridays. I do have, like, the general time conversions down below in the very, very top of this description. So it's 6 o'clock on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast in America, which I think works out to be, like, the very early morning hours for the UK, but I'm not sure. I think it's like plus 8 or plus 9 from where I am. Okay, you guys seriously have got to stop spamming my chat with the same questions over and over and over again. I will start banning and muting people who do that repeatedly, because, like, I've seen the same person ask the same question 4 or 5 times in under 10 minutes, according to this chat log, and that really makes it difficult for me to find people's questions when you just ask the same question over and over again. It's more than one of you. You know who you are. It's 4 a.m. in the UK. Well, I guess I can be your late night entertainment. I will put you... The fun thing is when I can put people in timeout, which is entertaining for me because it feels like a very, like, ooh, BDSM punishment. If it's, like, the theme of the channel, I feel like. Okay, I'm literally going to answer one more question and then I gotta go because we just do not have any more time, because I need to be able to, like, shut this all down and get Zoom going and everything else. So I do apologize. Okay, people seem to really love the idea of having, like, a list of different types of daddies. So I will definitely keep that in mind for a video. Not so interesting to me, but meh. Yeah, totally. I mean, not everyone's going to be into it, but that's fine. Definitely not every video I make is going to be for everyone. Yes, I love middles are great. I do have an older video about middles, which probably could use some refreshing because it is quite old. But yes, middles are valid. Well, I think I'm way earlier in the chat than you guys are looking at right now. But, like, when I read every single comment, I can see that there were multiple people that asked the same question like 4 or 5 times, so, like, within a pretty short time period. So it's not happening currently right now at 7:57 p.m., but it was happening like an hour ago. Can you be a brat and a pet? I imagine if you're a cat, cats sometimes do things on purpose to annoy you, like push things off a table and such. Is that bratting? Yes. Bratting can be combined with many kinks. You can do bratting in service. You can do bratting in pet play. You can do bratting and being a little. You can do bratting and being a masochist. All different things can be combined in BDSM, and that is one of the many wonderful things about kink, is you can have a chocolate cake, and a chocolate and strawberry cake, and a chocolate and vanilla cake, and a chocolate and caramel cake, and a chocolate and peanut butter cake, and a chocolate peanut butter caramel cake. You can mix all those things together in any combination you so choose, as long as you are enjoying it and that is consensual and negotiated with your partners. That was a really quick one, so I am going to try and answer one more, because I'm riding on the edge. I guess I just love coming out of the wire. I mean, I think if I log in 2 minutes late, it's not going to be a big difference, because they almost always are late. For Zoom things, there's almost always a wait for like 10 minutes before they start doing something. Oh god, Disco Tress, this is such a long answer. I am going to direct you to a video though, because this is an important one. When did you first start playing, and what safety precautions did you set in place when looking for a dungeon community for the first time? I've seen your videos on it, but would love to hear your experience. I mean, if you watch my videos, you heard what my experience is, insofar as what I'm safe or feel safe sharing with people in public, just in general on the internet. If you haven't seen it, I do have more recent videos where I talk about how to safely navigate the community. Really look for rules, look for who's RSVP'd on FetLife, contact whoever is organizing the event or whoever runs the event, depending. It may just be, you know, an email and a website. It may be a contact form. Maybe somebody on FetLife. Contact them, confirm about the rules, see who's RSVP'd, make sure they have rules in place, ask about checking IDs, ask about checking vaccination requirements, things like that. And, you know, go to a social beforehand if you can before going to a full-on play party. If you are connected to a local community, I would really recommend getting to know people in the area first before going to a dungeon, because certain dungeons can look really good on paper and sell themselves really well on paper, and then be just a complete shit show in person and be awful and be run by really bad people. And the only way you would know that ahead of time is knowing other people locally. So the best way you can keep yourself safe is to know people, get in a Discord chat, meet people in a group on FetLife, go to a munch, go to an event that's a social event, and that's really going to be the key for your safety and for having a fun time. You know, it can be hard to meet people at dungeons during play, and socials are better for that. Okay, it is 8 o'clock. I do have to go, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I am fiddling with a tape measure because that's what I do, and if you guys ever hear weird noises, it's because I'm fiddling with something, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Anyways, that is everything for tonight, guys. Again, thank you so much. We do stream every Friday at the same time, 6 o'clock. If you want to make sure to not miss out on that in the future or my videos, do press the notification bell down below. Make sure you are subscribed, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye! Alright, I'm going to end on Bandit. How about that? End on the sleepy girl. Bye!